when it comes to guys and girls who are like boyfriend and girlfriends, or even for that matter, husbands and wives who have bad relationships with each other, or relationship issues, or whatever they call it, at least they get to have those. Whereas someone like me, who's a raging virgin incel, a black-pilled incel, I couldn't even imagine myself having that kind of experience or being in that kind of situation ever in my entire life.
27 years old, never had a girlfriend, from Darth Nihilus. Right before we jump into this one, I want to give a little disclaimer, like what this is all about. This guy is the perfect example of the black pill mindset, and this is the exact thing that I don't want you guys to have. This is the exact kind of mindset that I do not want you to be in. It's unproductive and unhealthy. But on top of that, a lot of the aspects that he's going to talk about is something I can personally relate to. It's truly the way that I used to think in some ways. Path of progress? Let's get into it.
Today I will be talking about the fact that I am 27 years old, still virgin, and never had a girlfriend. And I'll start this video by saying that every single year on the day right before I have my birthday, so every single February 11 of every year, which is the day right before the day that I become an older age, I become filled with this unbearable, insane level of just crushing heartbreak. And I just feel this just deep, aching pain right dead center in the middle of my heart. Like deep in my chest, I feel this just extreme pit of pain, very severe, just hopeless, despairing, soul-crushing, agonizing, emotional pain deep in my heart. And, every single year on the day right before it's my birthday, so again, every single February 11 of every year for a while now, to be honest, I just feel so much grief and so crushed and so broken and so hopeless, so full of despair, so torn apart, because I never amounted to anything in my life. I never accomplished anything. I am not successful for any reason. And I obviously never will be, if we're all going to be completely honest with ourselves here. It wouldn't take a genius to figure out that my unfortunate fate is set in stone.
So right there, he's 27, and he's saying his life is over. I'm a failure. I'm never going to amount to anything. It's like, man, you are 27 years old, a couple years younger than I am. For men, our life barely even starts until we're like 25. That's one of the best things about being a man, is that you can take control of your life. You can take control of your life at any point and change who you are. You can change who you are, do the work, and become whatever it is that you want. Genuinely, basically at any point. Kind of the older you get, the more difficult it's going to be. But 27 is like, dude, you're young.
There's literally nothing I can do about it. Regardless of what so many of you idiot normies think. Because when it comes to you normal people, you all have so much just happiness and joy, and you just have such gleeful, attitudes or personalities, which are so damn annoying and irritating. And the thing is, you all think too highly of yourselves. You think you're so great and perfect and wonderful, and just you have this self-righteous attitude. I mean, that's literally the vibe that I get and feel from so many of you. And so you give people who are so beyond the point of help and just so extremely damaged beyond the point of repair, like people like me, for example, and you give people like me a false sense of hope that people like me, our lives will somehow, some way get better. When in reality, the only way that someone like my life would get better, I mean, the only way that a life like mine would get better, like people who are just like me, incels, black-pilled incels, losers, failures at
They're
life and
just
society and all
obsessed
that,
with himself.
the only way our lives would get better is by some miracle.
Incorrect. That's just not true. Now, here's the thing, like why I can even talk about things like this, why I can even have a whole channel dedicated to, men's self-improvement and talking about dating and all this stuff is because of my personal experience, okay? My mindset used to be in the absolute gutter. I was raised poor, I was raised by a single mom, and I turned my life into something that most people would say is their dream life. Like, dude, I'm in Japan right now. I don't know if you can tell, but that's why the background change. I'm in Japan. My girlfriend is downstairs making me food right now. I did all of this because I worked hard. I worked smart, and that's how I did it. It wasn't some miracle. Nothing just dropped on my table. I had to go after whatever it is that I wanted. One of the things with this mindset, he even mentioned it himself, that it's like, I'm beyond help. I'm a failure. I'm totally alone. No one else can relate to me. No one has felt this before. You just can't understand. And that exact mindset is where so many guys are today, thinking that the entire world is against you. I'm completely alone. I'm isolated. And to an extent, some of those things are true. I touch on some of those themes on the channel as well, because a lot of the mass media, let's just be honest, they don't like men. But one of the biggest things is it is all about your perspective. It's all perspective, because what you think about is a choice. You can choose to only see all of the darkness, most negative things in the world. You can choose to only look at the reasons of why you're a loser, why you're a failure, why you'll never succeed, or you can choose to look at all of the positive things in life. You can choose to be grateful. You can wake up and see, okay, wow, there's a lot of problems in the world, especially today when things are going so rapidly downhill. But you can choose. You can wake up and be grateful for literally anything. You can have like a sandwich in your life. You can have a sandwich that you really, really love eating. And you can choose, you can wake up and be like, wow, I love that sandwich. I'm so grateful to have that sandwich in my life. It is just so awesome that I get to eat that sandwich every single day. That's awesome. That's how you can start your day. That is your choice, that you are choosing to look at all of the negative things. And there really are a lot of things that you can be grateful for, especially if you're born in a Western nation. As much as I heavily critique the West, there are so many benefits of being here. It is the best place in the world to build yourself up as a man, to make money and succeed. Truly. You can wake up and thank God that your mother and father aren't being blown to bits. You can wake up and thank God that, wow, I have electricity, I have running water, all of these things.
Otherwise, our lives will never improve. They will never get better. They'll never change. We'll never become successful at anything for any reason. We'll never become accomplished in our lives because we're not normal. We're stunted. We're like, I don't know, we're the bottom feeders of society. We're the failures,
special,
we're the losers, we're the
special.
lowlives, we're the outcasts, the black sheep, we're the trash of society. We're thrown out, discarded, and gotten rid of. We're totally and completely rejected, and we don't fit in to this kind of world of ours. We don't. We cannot connect with the society or system that we have and that we have developed over a long period of time. And we're so indifferent compared to the majority of the human race, compared to most people. But
Dude, you're not special. Like, that's most men today.
The day right before my birthday of every single year, every February 11 of every single year, the day right before it's my birthday, which is February 12, and right before I become older, I feel this soul crushing amount of pain and just extreme severe heartache and just intense brokenness inside of me internally, emotionally. And it's only understandable that I feel the way I do. And the reason why I feel that way is because I had so many hopes and dreams and aspirations that I wanted to come true, that I really wanted to become a reality in my life. I mean, I wanted to do big, great things. I wanted to be successful and have, things in my life that I would have accomplished that would have made me happy and proud of myself. I wanted to go places and do things. I wanted to, leave behind a legacy. I wanted to make my mark in this world. Like, the most and main thing I wanted was to have a girlfriend since I was a teenager that hopefully and maybe I would have eventually married by the time we would have been in our late teens.
Of course, it's focused on women. Okay. So for a lot of us, this is just a people thing. We will put limiters in our own mind. All right. Let me explain what I mean by that. Now, for this guy, he literally says he is a loser. He calls himself a loser. So at some point in his life, in his own mind, he decided, I'm a loser. I'm a loser. And it's stuck. It's stuck in his brain. And speaking from personal experience with the little bit of success that I've found, really, I can just tell you that there are just people that haven't given up and then they become successful. That's really it. Because really the only people that are true losers are the ones that are dead in the grave and never became anything. Because if there's one guy that just never gave up his entire life, maybe even if he didn't succeed, you would never even know that you are a loser because you'd be dead. And then you can be labeled as a loser. Okay, you lived your entire life, you didn't do anything, okay, fine. But if you never give up, you keep trying over and over and over and over, eventually, more than likely, you're going to succeed at that thing. So this is what I mean when people put self-imposed limiters in their own head. At some point he decided, I'm a loser. And this is, I'll tell you about myself as well. There was one point in my life where I considered myself a loser. And I was thinking about that concept because I'm in my teens, I'm in my early 20s, and I was really thinking like, wow, like why do I think about this, about myself, Like some of the results I was getting in life were actually quite positive, but that limit in my head was still there. That mindset of me calling myself a loser was still there. So this is when you have to do that personal work to really find out, okay, why do I actually think this way about myself? So you have to do the work on yourself. You have to dive deep within your own mind. And personally, what I found out, it's like a lot of my results weren't really that loser-ish. It's that I was told I was a loser. I was. And some people treated me like I was a loser. And then at some point it stuck in my own brain and even I considered it myself. And this was a big life change for me at the time, is that when I dug in there, I dug that whole thing out, okay, where does this even come from? I changed that frame of mind. I changed the frame of thinking. Okay, you are not a loser. You are a winner that hasn't won yet. And I was right. Okay? Because that's what you'll learn. After you change the mindset, the real world reflects that as well.
But I would have preferred having children, at least myself personally, around the time that I was in my late teens. That's what, at least for me, would have been ideal and what I really wanted to happen. And I wanted to also have a lot of kids, and therefore I wanted to be crazy insane rich. And that's just one of the many reasons why, like, for example, I wanted to become a famous actor when I was a lot younger. Like, I really wanted to somehow, some way get to Los Angeles, California, or in other words, Hollywood, in 2014 when I was 17 years old. And hopefully I wanted that year and at that age to be cast in my first role. Even if I would have had to start out in small minor roles, I wouldn't have cared, as long as those small minor roles would have eventually catapulted me into superstardom, to where eventually and hopefully I would have became an A-lister actor and would have been considered a legend and a stellar actor and all that.
Yeah,
That was
delusion.
my dream.
Let's just be real.
That was my hope. I really desired and craved and wished for that to happen. I longed and yearned for that. Same with, wanting a girlfriend since I was a teenager. Someone I could have shared my life with and experienced things with, and, maybe or perhaps commiserated with, if we both would have come from broken upbringings, like broken dysfunctional families, or trauma or whatever. We could have at least commiserated back and forth equally. At least that's what I would have hoped, and what I myself would have wanted for the both of us. Now, I wouldn't have wanted either one of us to have added more suffering to each other, but then again, if I would have gotten with a girl who was just as broken hearted and traumatized and whatnot as I was since I was a teenager, then she probably would have made my life even worse and ruined me and destroyed me and wrecked me, as if I wouldn't have been already ruined, wrecked, and destroyed before even getting with her. Like, I wouldn't have wanted to get with a girl who would have just made my life more of a living hell. But most likely that's what would have happened, or would have been the case in reality of things, if I would have actually been lucky enough of having a girlfriend since I was a teenager, which I really wanted to happen. And I envy and I'm jealous of and angry and hateful towards people, both men and women, who have been in sexual relationships since they were teenagers. It's unfair. And it seriously makes me feel as if I missed out on something so great and wonderful. I mean, it really does. And I don't expect any of you normal people to understand that when you yourselves experience that. So it's not like you could relate to me or understand me when you yourselves did not miss out on that, and that you weren't deprived of that. You weren't underprivileged of that.
So also notice like a common theme of just how he is speaking. He's basically talking like, oh, well, this should have just happened. This happens to everyone. And what he's taking on is the more feminine way of thinking, is that things happen to you. I would genuinely put money on it. I bet this guy's raised by a single mom. I can almost guarantee it. Men make things happen. You want something in the world, you go out and you go after it. But also just notice how focused on women that he is. And this is a lot of what young guys do, especially guys that haven't been with women before, is that they put women just up on this insanely high pedestal, like women are the most important things in the world. And dude, you want to know a secret about this stuff? Not really a secret, but if you watch the channel, you should know. Women go after the guys that are self-interested. Women go after the guys that are generally more selfish, that are on their own purpose. Women don't tend to go for the guys that are obsessed with women. They don't want to be put on the pedestal. They want that masculine leader that they can follow. Let's just keep going.
And that's why, of course, when it comes to people such as yourselves, you'll just make fun of me and mock me and bully me and harass me and troll me and whatever it is that you do. Because,
okay, dude, I'm sorry to pause it again, but it's like he has this mindset like, oh, everyone is just so mad at me. It's like, bro, I was you. I had so many of these same ways of thinking. The world isn't happening to you. Like, bro, this is genuine advice. The video was posted 6 months ago. Hopefully the guy actually watches this video. It's like, no, take the accountability. See what you are doing in the world that makes you get this kind of reaction. Look at your own internal flaws. Work on them, and then go back out into the world and see how it goes. This doomer, depressive type of mindset is one of the huge reasons why you're in this situation to begin with. This type of energy is woman phobic. All right, you have like a 50-foot shield around you when you think this way as a dude. You're projecting a very negative, depressive, doomer aura. Women hate that, dude,
because it's so much easier to do that than to actually take the time and effort and energy to try to understand another human being. Most people don't really want to do that. They don't want to take the time, effort, or energy in order to understand someone. And also, in order to understand someone.
Because the thing is, that's true, but I guarantee you do the same thing. That's just a people thing. Most people are more self-centered and self-interested than you actually think they are. You know, there's not going to be this, 10 out of 10 model that's going to take pity on you. Oh, wow, he was just so depressed, and he was so he was so sad. Let me just marry him and give him 10 kids. Women will basically never get with you out of pity. Sorry to pause it again, but dude, this is I feel like I'm almost talking to myself in the past in a lot of ways. So let's keep going.
When you have to honestly be like them, at least in some way. You have to be similar to them, or you have to be completely the same. Or you have to, in other words, have gone through exactly the same suffering and trauma that they themselves experience, to where maybe, just maybe, you would be more likely to be understanding, compassionate, sympathetic, empathetic, to where you would pity another person and feel sorry and bad for them. But
anti-seductive, dude.
I just hate it when I see and know from common sense that most guys and girls have been in sexual relationships since they were teenagers. And you know what? I disapprove and condemn anyone and everyone who has had sex before marriage or sex underage, because it's a mortal sin.
What?
And not to mention the fact...
Bro, earlier in the video, he was saying oh, I wish I had those experiences. I wish I had a girl. There's just blatant contradiction.
That, literally any guy or girl who has partaken in sexual acts or experiences or whatever since they were teenagers almost always have such piss poor relationships with each other. I'm not even kidding. So many guys and girls who've had, boyfriend, girlfriend relationships since they were teenagers, or who had sex or other, sexual pleasures or experiences as teenagers, they don't last. Their relationship always ends up falling apart, breaking apart sooner or later. And those guys and girls end up literally causing so much pain and suffering and damage and trauma to each other when doing that. They ruin and wreck and destroy each other. Their souls, for example, and their hearts, and their minds, and their bodies. And, for that reason, it wouldn't really make sense why I envy them as much as I do, and why I'm so jealous of them and angry at them and hate them. But it's not like I'm jealous, envious, angry at, and hate them for that awful kind of experience. But at the same time, there's a part of me that can't help but feel those things towards those people, because at least they got to partake in that and experience that. Even when it comes to having a bad, horrible, awful fallout with each other, at least they got to have that. When it comes to guys and girls who are boyfriend and girlfriends, or even for that matter, husbands and wives who have bad relationships with each other, or relationship issues, or whatever they call it, at least they get to have those. Whereas someone like me, who's a raging virgin incel, a black-pilled incel, I couldn't even imagine myself having that kind of experience or being in that kind of situation ever in my entire life. I mean, that is just so beyond me. Like, I cannot even comprehend how I would be or who I would be if I did experience that in my life. Like, as a teenager, for example. Like,
Do the work on yourself,
I
bro.
just cannot even imagine what my life would look like or how I would be as a man and as a person if I would have had a totally and completely different experience than the one that I actually did have in reality.
Because even as far as this guy is in the darkness, like you can see it just in, the way he's speaking. Like, bro, just look at his eyes, man. Like he's getting close to giving up. Let's just be real, okay? This guy can change his life. Absolutely he can. And that's why just genuinely I never want any of you guys to think you can't change your life. Because you can. I really don't care where you are. No matter how dark things are, more than likely you're going to have another day. You have another opportunity to change your life. You can decide that. You can decide at any moment to stop what you're doing and go to the gym. You can decide to stop what you're doing, go talk to that pretty girl over in the coffee shop, whatever it is. You can read books. You can become more interesting. You can travel the world. You can get these experiences. You just have to actively do the work. You have to want to change and then be active about it.
I know it seems kind of silly for me to, envy and be jealous of and angry at and hate, young couples, like guys and girls who have been in sexual relationships since they were teenagers, especially when their relationships don't always work out or always, remain or be that strong. And they always, well, or almost always at least have a bad falling out and terrible relationship and awful to each other and whatnot and cause each other so much trauma. But I do, and I can't help it because the way that I see it is at least they got to have that experience, whether it's good or bad. That's the thing about us incels that most people who have been in relationships cannot understand because, it does seem kind of silly to envy, be jealous of, angry at, and hate any men and women who have been in sexual relationships since they were teenagers when, so many men and women have caused each other throughout history so much trauma, pain, suffering, excruciating agony, and unbearable pain and all that shit because of having sexual relationships since their teens. But obviously it's not like all their experiences with each other are bad. And that's the thing, at least about me as an incel. I envy, am jealous of, angry at, and hate them for having both the good and the bad experiences. Because I never had either. And neither have other men who are incels.
This is another thing that I'm talking about where he's putting these own limiters in his head. He's putting these own labels on himself. I'm a loser. I'm an incel. I'm black-pilled. And you have to be so careful about how you label yourself because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy in a lot of ways. If you just think about yourself as a lazy person in general, your day-to-day is going to be lazy. But if you flip it, you say, no, I'm actually a very productive person in general. I can get anything done. I'm a winner that hasn't won yet. Just that change of mindset will change your entire life because your perspective will be different. You will see the world differently. And some of these labels, the world might try and put them on you, but it is your job to not let that happen, okay? And these words, these labels, they could come from, your bully at school. They could come from your parents, come from your family, your brothers, your sisters, whatever. It doesn't matter where they come from. You just have to make sure that they don't stick to your mind and they don't identify your entire persona, your entire character. Another thing I want to say to guys like this is, okay, if you're, an incel, you can't get any women. Okay, fine. When was the last time you approached a girl? Just in public, when was the last time you went up and said, hi, how are you? Wow, I think you're beautiful. Seriously, when was the last time you asked a girl out on a date? Asked for a number. You see what I mean where all this is like a self-fulfilling prophecy? If you identify yourself as an incel, you are guaranteed an incel, probably for the rest of your life. If you get rid of that label, you will automatically be more likely to, get a girl. And this is where you just have to put in the mental work on yourself. You have to do the research, you have to get the experience. So really, unless you go out and you approach 100 women and every single one of them give you a negative reaction, no numbers, nothing positive from it whatsoever, then you can come back and say, oh, okay, well, I'm not getting the result. Well, what is the issue here? What are the issues here? Figure it out. Okay, well, what is it that women tend to go for? What is it that women tend to like? You do the research and say, oh, okay, well, maybe I do have that quality, but I really wasn't showing that at all. And oh, I don't really have that quality. Let me work on that one. Maybe I should go to the gym. Maybe I should be more fun. Maybe I should have a better lifestyle. And it's all of these things, okay? All right. This should be a pretty long one, but I think this is an important video, even though it is kind of dense, all right? So, guys, I want you to share your personal experiences in the comments, especially the guys that maybe used to consider themselves a black pill guy or something like that. Yeah, let me know what you thought of the whole video down below. Path of progress, boys, okay? Better every day, no matter what, especially to this guy. And I'll see you guys later. Like and subscribe.